Hello, everybody. This is another Thursday, and as every Thursday, it's time for Thursday PD with educators from around the world or Asia. And it's a Thirsty Thursday, and we welcome everybody who's on looking and hope to make you all happy with what we share today. Today, we are between the sheets. We are talking about Sheets and Google Sheets in a special, and I welcome the panel. And let's get it started, James.
I think Google Sheets is one of the most underrated apps within the suite, and also the most powerful. It gives you huge amounts of opportunities to help organize yourself, to share information, and to share information with kids. I mean, I've used it for everything from gamification through to organizing meetings, through to setting out certificates. It really is the glue that brings everything together and helps you along. I'm going to pass along to Gary next.
Okay. I use Google Sheet to basically organize data. Basically, I use a lot of functions to automate the grading system,
Mm-hmm,
basically, and consolidate data.
mm-hmm,
Also, for I integrate it with Google Site, so I can display some information
mm-hmm,
using an add-on like Awesome Table. So
mm-hmm.
it's one of the
Just
best
be
way to
aware that
present
Awesome
data.
Table has a hard limit of 1,000 views per month before they
Really?
start
Ah,
charging you quite a lot of
Oh,
money. Yeah, we've been getting the bill this month, and we
wow.
blew it in half
oh,
an afternoon.
really?
Which add-on
Yeah,
was that?
Wow.
Awesome Table.
Okay.
And we talked about Awesome Table, I believe, a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah. We
sessions
talked
back,
about
Mm,
it in the
Hmm.
previous.
and
yeah,
that they were kind of cheating people
not
into.
not cheating, but basically you do have a limit of 1,000, and above that, um,
You'll be
you are
billed.
expected to pay
Hmm.
the rate that they want, and it's probably too high for most educational
Wow.
establishments.
Yeah.
Um, I had
So
to rewrite my whole website because I was blowing through it very, very quickly,
Wow.
and even this
I
month
Hmm.
we
I
probably went a bit too
feel
far.
that Sheets add-ons are one of the most the most developers give things there to taste and then they switch it off for free and make it paid. I had this with several extensions, like for example, Yum, yet
Yeah.
another mail merge. They also were, I think they were completely free in the beginning, didn't have a quota number, and then they reduce their free quota and make want you to pay. And I
Hmm.
think
Yeah.
most of the paid apps are with Sheets. I don't know
Hmm.
Hmm.
what your opinion is.
Yeah, and most of them now do say try Yam for free or try this for free.
Yeah.
It's it is something you need to be careful of, because if you don't have the source code to the extension that you're using, then clearly you can be charged for it. And in many cases, that offers value for money for those people that need it, because obviously programmers deserve to get paid, but sometimes the methods of doing it are per view or per download because there's databases involved.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of schools are obviously not comfortable with that when they've got yearly budgets.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I have no worry about the budget because it doesn't reach that much. Unlike you,
Yeah.
James.
Yeah, well, literally the awesome table, we literally hit 3,000 without trying.
Wow.
Uh,
Oh,
Yeah.
and even for a defunct web page, I somehow managed to get 40 views on it, and I still don't know how that happened because I thought
Wow.
I'd taken it down. But yeah, it's one of those that is quite. And Awesome Table, the functionality is literally awesome. So I completely understand that they can charge a good money for it, because it provides a very effective database functionality and does exactly what people want it to.
Hmm. That's kind of
But
rough though, because you got something that looks good, something that draws people in, and your
yes,
goal is to get more views, and then you're kind of hurting for that because unless you're
yeah,
earning more off those views, that's a little rough.
yeah. I mean, it's basically giving people sugar and
Hmm.
getting them started. Uh,
Yeah.
so, um, and as I say, it's one of those that I have had difficulties with in the past, just because I knew this is what they had. And when people see that beautiful visualization of data, it is absolutely incredible and really, really does help. Now, there are ways and means of getting similar-ish effects, but they're not quite as elegant, and they do require you to make a copy of a spreadsheet.
So can you explain a bit what you use awesome tables for?
Mostly for filtering data. So actually, a lot of the things that we're doing are very similar to the filter functions that are already in Sheets. But what the trick is when you do this in Sheets, is that you have to have edit access to it. Although there is limited functionality with the filter views. Does that make sense? It just makes it much more elegant. I have in the past managed to use JavaScript to pull off similar things for small things, but that's a lot of programming.
Yeah.
But I still don't see what you use with filters and what can't the
Well, with Awesome Table, when you filter something, well,
It doesn't change the source data.
it doesn't
sorry
change,
again.
It doesn't change the source data.
and also the user will be the one to filter because it has automatic filter. It gives the power to the user to filter data, whatever field
Mm,
you want. That's what I
without
like about
without
Awesome
changing the
Table.
actual
yes,
spreadsheet.
that's
Yes.
correct.
And the
Yeah,
presentation is nice, the layout. So it's you don't
yeah,
have to be HTML geek to do the layout
yeah,
because that's the edge of Awesome Table.
yeah.
And I know that this is a bit off topic now, but is there a chance that your functionality is if you use App Maker for
Yeah,
connecting
Mm,
this view?
it kind of helps, but again, with AppMaker, you have to be at least aware of the SQL, and you have to be aware of how to use the backend database. AppMaker actually potentially has a lot more power, but yeah, it does require more initial practice.
Well, I'm actually trying to figure out how to connect a database from the Google G Suite realm, which even in the G Suite for Education you have to pay per request, I
Yes,
think.
yeah,
But
but
I
the
think
fees are much more reasonable
then
than Awesome Table.
So wait a second. What do you pay for within G Suite?
when G Suite, and now please give me the jargon, James. Um, the it's an SQL database, is it not?
Yeah,
And you I believe you pay Google per request.
Are you not talking about BigQuery or something? Are you? What kind of SQL database
Well,
is it? I'm so
I would have
interested. But
to I have to
uh,
look it up. I
I'll
will,
have to double check,
but
but I think
I
it's
think it's
it is a form of SQL database,
okay.
and it's an online hosted database.
Uh-huh. Does
Um,
BigQuery ring a bell? Because that's
it does sound correct actually, but I don't want
okay.
to tell you
Okay.
that
I
without.
haven't I haven't used BigQuery, but it looks well based on what I read. It looks good,
Hmm.
but I haven't really used it.
The first
Uh,
10, and with BigQuery, it's the first 10 gigabytes per month of storage is free. The first terabyte of query data processed per month is free.
mhm.
This I don't, it's anyway.
It
I've been
is,
kind of curious about that.
yeah, it is part of the Google Cloud platform,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and it's Cloud SQL. But as I say, the price is much more reasonable
Mm,
than.
yeah.
I remember something about 0.7 US cent per or zero point zero cent
Per
0.07 US cent per something, and I don't want to say something wrong, but it's funny that we are just 10 minutes into the show and we are already completely off the normal Excel, but through the add-ons we went to App Maker.
Mhm,
So yeah, let that be a challenge, dear James. I have created a database in the Google Cloud,
mhm.
but I haven't successfully connected it to an app with App Maker. but that was what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
if you watch the App Maker intro by Google, they say that it is very easy to kind of make views and connection to databases.
Yeah, it is. It is. And as I say, I've seen people make it, and they say for the price they're charging, it's very reasonable because they do have to pay a small amount for the cloud space, and that's just added on. And AppMaker does connect to quite a lot of different databases and even sheets and things. But ultimately, you need to use those databases behind the scenes. But as I say, you might be looking with that for a school use, maybe $100 a year. You know what I mean? It's not massive money, but it's something schools need to be aware of, that it is a model of charge per query. And that's something that schools are not used to, but that's obviously the cost to Google as well.
Yeah, let's see if we can make a show on AppMaker in connection to cloud-based databases. There's only if you haven't ever heard it, a Firebase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay, so their slogan is start for free, then pay as you go. So
Yeah.
and I guess that even if you change to move your project somewhere else, you can take it with you and choose another database
You
provider.
do have to be careful with databases. That is part of the art, is to make sure you get locked in. You know, databases have got better than they have been in the past, but if ever you buy a database, you want to have the option to download it in some kind of common format, because that's where people make their money.
Making it hard to move.
I see
Yeah.
Bonnie in the back room. Can we take you on, Bonnie? Just nod your head. Yes. Okay. So.
Okay. Hello, Bonnie.
Hey,
Hey,
sorry.
Bonnie.
I was trying
Nice
to
to
go
meet
into the
you.
office early, and I still had the wrong time, so I just pulled over.
Okay. Oh well, it's
Hi.
working well.
Kindly introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Bonnie. I was part of the SE 19 group, just
Oh.
the best group. No offense. And I work in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as a technology facilitator for the entire district.
Cool.
I think you were talking about the thing we're using right now is dashboard. Like all our different departments want dashboards to show off what they're doing for the district, but none of them know how to do it. So it ends up being me. So that's, I think, what y'all were talking about, a bunch of other stuff, but that is what we're the most right now.
So
And dashboards are word of the month, aren't they? Really, everybody wants a dashboard, and some people basically mean just a front end and a bit of a chart to sheets, and that's plenty good enough. And you know, for my students, I have trackers that help the students to understand their knowledge, and they're very happy to see little charts appear. But for others, they're after a good deal more than that.
This is the first time I've heard about him. So so dashboards that's what Ralph was talking about using? No? Okay, whatever.
No, something completely different. Let me see if I can find something for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so dashboards are just they are a favorite thing. I've just got to make sure I've got one without any student data in.
Sure.
Let's have a look.
Where?
Yeah, I do have one.
I said that wrong. It's Data. I'm talking about Data Studio. Sorry.
Oh, Data Studio. Okay. Yeah, no, that's really good because that
Microsoft,
does tone data. No, there's there's a Google Data Studio.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't never heard of this. See.
Okay. It's the next step up from a Google Sheet, and it does allow you to start connecting the data.
Yeah, like I said, our departments like transportation and stuff, they want to present on what they're doing. So we've kind of made them digitize. They were still faxing and all this stuff, and switched to Data Studio so they can present on what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, it's getting much more powerful, and it does effectively make the Google Suite have a proper database, which is brilliant.
Is it free?
Yeah, it is free to start with. Yeah. You just go to Data Studio.
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
it is free.
Okay.
It's just the data sources may or may not be free as you go along.
Yeah.
We've had to build ours.
Okay.
And we have a good one. We have one on like teacher Google certification, so people, we can like validate our department, and that kind of stuff. But like I said, it's really spread. Like those big people, like they like that graphic and being able to show it off.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I'm so blown away. I'm just browsing the Data Studio. And,
Well, that's what we aim to do, isn't it?
Yeah. We always learn something. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Bonnie. That's already.
Sorry, I just jumped in and
what do you
changed.
mean? No, that's exactly how we want it.
That's normally what happens every time.
Yeah.
I have a link for one we do. I can put it in the chat because it's not student data.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick check. What do I need to be careful of here? I think I can do it without causing too much trouble. I just need to.
Yeah, this is one we use. It's not student data.
Yeah.
It's, teacher, like it's our school readiness survey.
Yeah.
And so we give teachers like a survey of their ready, tech readiness, and we break it down by school so you can do all that kind of stuff because principals like to see that.
Yeah.
I think our test is really hard. I think we need to.
So just from the navigation menu, I can tell that it is part of the Google Marketing platform. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, I think it connects to that. I know a lot of the templates I have that I use are like ads. And stuff.
I can demonstrate a very quick template if you like. Shall I share my screen?
Sure.
Yeah.
Please do.
Hang on. Right, share screen. That's fine. Hopefully this is okay. Chrome tab. So I've made a practice one, and can you see what I'm seeing? Can you see the sheet?
Not yet.
Not
Ralph,
yet.
You're gonna...
Yes, now we are there.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so a lot of these data dashboards are basically, they go through. So this is a student one, and you can see for some of the units, they've put some things through. So for unit one, they've said how confident they are, and then that immediately goes back to the summary page and shows them the table. And it's these kind of dashboards that people are interested in with data and going through and pulling data from various different places. In this case, quite a simple one because the sheet just says how confident they are, and that gives them an idea and helps them do a target. And this one, obviously, I've anonymized, but it shows the unit number one, how many they've completed, how many they haven't completed. I can tell that they haven't done unit 5, unit 6, 7, and 8 yet, and that really does help them go through and do what you need. And as I say, those are going through our school and being very popular at the moment because it gives a real visualization to some data and really helps the students to track where they are. Also, you can, after a test, they can import data and things like that. And some are automated, but I think it's important to give the students some responsibility for their own learning. You know what I mean?
Right. So that was, it looked like a sheet. That was a sheet, or
yeah, that was just a Google sheet. Yeah. So that I'm bringing it back onto topic.
Yeah. Well, how did you initiate that? How did you get the data dashboard visible in that sheet?
Okay, so what I would do is I would create a chart based on those folders. Let me show you. I'll need to share my screen again, don't I? Hang on.
Well, that's where the fun starts, sharing the screen.
Yes. Hang on.
Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready. Okay, we go. So if you look at this one here, let's see. Edit the chart. Hopefully this will help me out.
Sorry.
Can you see it?
Yes. Adriana has just popped back in, and let's welcome her for a quick hello. Hi, Adriana.
Hi.
Hey.
We are talking about datastudio.google.com, which is a completely new news for me. So, James, please go ahead.
Too.
Yeah. So this is just a Google sheet. So all that happens here is this chart comes from here and comes from this column here. So that's all this does. So it's very simple, but I mean, you can put any data in and do it. And of course, people like it because they can see what's going on.
That way is a lot easier than the big data studio.
Yeah. But that obviously doesn't scale the same way as Data Studio.
Yeah.
What it does is show us what's going on here, and it enables the student. And I say I've taken out the
Yeah.
information for this. Enables them to make their own targets, concentrate on where they need to revise, and look at the book pages and do example questions where needed and things like that.
Yeah. That would be
Um,
great for students.
yeah, and that's what I'm doing to help them.
So what's the difference between that? Oh, he's gone. What's the difference between that and a regular chart?
Oh, it's basically it's interactive. When
Okay.
something is added, it's automatically there.
Okay. Gotcha.
If Ralph, if you can share my screen, let me share something that I would like. I shared with SEA 19 last September.
Okay.
I
Yay.
will share your screen. I can't see it just yet. So please click
Okay.
on the share screen button.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot. Sorry. Share my screen. Okay. Okay. I'll share the entire screen. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. There you go. So let me explain how it works, Eric. So it's all the data all came from a Google form.
Yeah.
Basically, this form is to check to report to the advisors to report to the advisors if there are misbehavior or positive behavior done by
Mhm.
any student.
Okay.
So the form is very basic. It will ask for the date and the name of the student. So these are fictional names, and then so they came from different sections,
Mhm.
different classes. So just basic question it where is the observation
Mhm.
happen, and then during what time. So I have other fields like others. So if in case
Gotcha.
it's not there, they can just type it there. But
Yeah.
I make the form easier for the person who will fill out the form, easier for them to fill it out. So is it
Mhm.
a good behavior, a bad behavior? Let's say if it's a good behavior, oh, okay, I forgot to select a name. Let's say it's Grayson, and then click next, and then since it's a good behavior, what positive behavior? So I have some items here. These are just some indicators, but they can always give something new. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's say positive role model, and then other information that is open-ended, and then it will be submitted. Then all the data will be placed here. So this is an existing uh, sample data. So everything is here.
Mhm.
And then what I use is I make use of the row call. So every time there's a new entry, it
Mhm.
will, let's say for Grayson, the latest one. So all data will be placed on this particular sheet. So I make use of the
Called roll
add-on.
call.
Yes, roll call. Where is that? Roll call. There you go.
Okay.
So all the data that since I identified that this sheet is basically for that particular person. So it coming from this sheet, everything is sorted by name,
Mhm.
and then I have another sheet wherein it will have the summary. For example, summary report. So with name. So I don't know how to call it. So I just make use of summary report with name. So it's basically here.
Mhm.
So how many positive behavior? The blue one, and for improvement. Now, if I want to see individual report, all I need to do is go here and select the name. For example, look what will happen if I change the name. Let's say I change the name, and then,
Mhm.
well, there's only one report for Stratman, which is a bad behavior. But if
Mm.
I go back to, for example, De Leon Marcos, it will have three reports with all positive behavior. But if I go to Grayson, there will be uh, 33% for improvement, and then affirmation is better. So specific specific observations are here collated. So it happened inside the classroom twice, one in the cafeteria, twice in the gymnasium. So
That's
this
all
when you
from that
change this,
same add-on.
yes, yes. Now, well, it's a combination of a lot of
Yeah.
functions and one add-on. So if you want to see what are the functions that I use, basically here I make use a combination of unique. and then index query. I don't know if you can see it. Let me make it
Yeah.
bigger. So there you go. So unique and then query. And then I also make use of indirect to get all the names and place it there,
Yeah.
place everything here. Indirect, unique, sort. So I combine all of them. So that's how it works in my
That's really
case.
cool.
Yeah, I wasn't able to present it that way
Mm.
during SEA because the pressure and the
Mhm.
technical glitch.
See, here's lots of creativity going on
Yeah,
here
that's
without
really
any
neat.
pressure. How
Mm.
great is that?
Yeah, like schools pay a lot of money for very similar programs. I'm just saying.
Yes,
They
but
do.
if they
And
only
as I
empower
say,
teachers, they can
Yeah,
do that.
that is a big point. I wish I had whitewashed my um, report card feeder system, which I was very proud to have created 2 years
mm,
ago. Not sure it fits perfectly what you just said, Bonnie, about schools paying so much money
Yeah.
for
mm,
solutions which are
Mm.
basically not that complex, or
Yeah.
yeah,
it needs a little bit of insight, a little bit of programming,
yeah.
program minded. I would say you don't need a lot of programming skills
Yeah,
to do many magic things
I mean,
with
I think in a lot of
sheets.
cases, what you did was really powerful was if you use the validation functions from a list of
oh,
students and you use the query function, the
Yeah.
amount you can pull up is incredible. And
Yeah.
people like the pick list. And I say the only problem is that you have to have edit access to the sheet to do it. But it allows you to
yeah,
do these pick lists like a piece of cake.
Mm.
And I say the difficulty is that most of us are using live data because we don't have cleaned out lists to demonstrate this. I did recently make a video though, demonstrating a little bit of that functionality, and I'm sure we can start to look at making these clearer things. But you know, schools don't realize what they have to
No.
pay for and what they don't have to pay for, and I think that's you know those lines of programming, just a few lines here and a few lines there.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
may
yeah,
they may not take us a lot of programming to do, but an outside company will they're going to charge 50, 100, 200, $300 for those lines of code, and then probably try to sell you a $10,000 database to go with it.
Yeah.
And we talked about that with a lot of developers, they just feed you a bit
Mm,
and bill you, and then you want more,
mm,
and they bill you again, and you don't
mm,
actually know where it is going. And so I believe without making or decreasing any developers' value, it is great if tech integrators or even math teachers or
Yeah.
any teachers
yeah,
whatsoever can save school money, and hopefully then the budgeting gives them some money to allot
yeah.
for other
yeah,
learning
Yeah.
material or something.
Mm.
Actually, if teachers or even as mentioned, you mentioned math teachers are empowered, they can do all these things. And
mm,
I think this is what we need to teach our kids. We can introduce programming using
mm,
sheets because it entails a lot of critical thinking and discipline and
mm,
orderliness. That is why I
mm,
love sheets.
Mm.
yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is that a lot of these things don't require a lot of effort, but also I think there is a strong argument with the amount of data that schools have actually
Mhm.
having internal programmers. I think,
Yeah.
and setting aside an appropriate amount of the budget to do that, because
Mm.
then you'll know the real cost. You'll have somebody who's trustworthy on the inside. Because the other thing is, as soon as you go to these external databases, you're handing over, in a lot of cases, a lot of personal data. And
Mm.
as an international school, a lot of that data we should be very careful with because we have um, a lot of children's data and parents' data as well, which I think is just as important to be handled carefully.
Yeah. My state has the most restrictive student data privacy laws
Mm,
in the entire U.S.
Where
mm,
are
Um,
you?
like whenever we partner with companies, we always have to make them
mm,
sign like a special um, data agreement, which they
mm-hmm,
don't always care to do. But
mm,
so yeah, like when we have, I think we have 40,000 students in our district, and I think we
mm,
have one internal programmer.
All
like
right,
that
wow.
works for them. Yeah,
That's whoa.
Wow.
That is a lot.
What state is that? What's the most restrictive state?
Louisiana.
Oh,
Louisiana.
wow.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Hey,
Um,
is this the
can-
first time we have somebody from America here?
Well, somebody who's in America from America,
Who's
maybe.
somebody-
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
I think
from
that's
America. Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah, I
awesome.
figured.
And you're working for a school or a school district?
I work for the school district. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Okay.
so cool. I really think that that school districts in America have made so much for Chromebooks, and that they have decided to use that is
Yeah, we're 1-to-1. We're 1-to-1 3rd through 12th grade.
Moving this on to simpler stuff, because I think a lot of the stuff we've discussed is probably above the
Very
average
complex.
teacher.
Yeah.
I want to still, maybe I'm not sure, James. You decide if this is the right time to mention autocrat
Oh,
and
yeah.
because what I
Okay.
did in my school was report card merge,
Okay.
and I've prepared a few screens I can share, and
Okay.
if you
I use Autocrat a lot.
Yes. So are you ready to do this, or do you want me to do this next little bit first? Because
no,
I was just going to talk about.
let me try, yeah.
Okay, off you go.
So my screen is here, and it's. Do you see?
Yep, we can see your screen.
You're using Flux, aren't you? The nighttime
And
color mode.
I clicked instead of.
There we go.
Okay. And we're back. Oops.
Uh-oh. Nice.
Okay, so in the meantime, we'll talk about this much simpler thing that I was going to talk about. I think one of the most powerful things that we've seen a little bit of is Google Forms and Sheets together.
Yeah.
And this
Yes.
afternoon, I was presenting to the Teach Meet in KL, and I literally sent out a 5-minute Google form. I sent it out to about 50 teachers from around KL, and we literally, I thought it was going to be a 20-minute exercise, but Adriana will testify that we spent the next 45 minutes going through data. And
Wow.
I want to show you that data can be exciting if it's presented in a nice way.
Agree.
Can I share my screen now?
Ralph is there.
Oh, he's
The
back
big
again.
screen.
Hi,
Let me do this, and
everybody.
then we'll go back to Ralph. Okay. So we'll do that. Hang on. Got to find it. Yeah. Okay. So what I did was I turned it into Classroom Food, and I went through the social networks. So any ideas what the most loved do? The most loved
Ooh.
social network?
In
Sorry,
the
say
Philippines,
again?
most probably
Instagram.
Facebook.
Actually, it was YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And least heard of social networks? Any ideas?
That would be.
No idea.
Yeah. Haven't
Okay.
heard of that. But,
At number
what?
7.
Really?
I'm
Wow.
not sure if this is social or
Tinder.
not.
And then
Okay.
then below that, Reddit and Flipboard and things like that. And I'm just demonstrating for a second, but that was done with just very simple sheets, and then just Google Form and Sheets, and then sharing that data in a fun format. And literally, it took me about, I don't know, on and off during the day, probably took me about 40 minutes to put that data together. And as I say, it then took longer to present than it did to make.
Wow.
Because once the teachers got involved, they really started discussing it and looking. And we also went quite a lot into digital safety and how we need to be with the kids, etc. And finally, I shared a simple sheet. And again, I'm going to share this with you. But there was a lot of discussion about this sheet, and all it was a list of questions with a little bit of thing, and it was just a list of sites. You know, I did do one little clever trick, which was to extract the metadata from those sites. But again, it took me 5 minutes, and suddenly I had 40 sites metadata and descriptions, which was great. And I'll admit, it was a Google find the code and off I went. So yeah, so I've shared that document, and that document is fully open, and somebody's already on it. So yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if how many of our viewers have never used an extension. So let me quickly show one thing. And you know what I did before when I shared my screen? I saw that I had this night shift on,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to switch the night shift off, and I switched off Wi-Fi. That's what
Mm.
happened. I will not see you anymore when I show my screen now. Can you quickly confirm that you can see my
Yes.
Yes, we
screen?
can see your screen.
Okay. I quickly hide my bookmarks so that you can see a bit more. So this is a normal Excel,
Yes,
or
we can
sorry,
see yours.
this is a normal sheet, and you see that was for my old school. And I quickly click here on add-ons, and you see how many add-ons I have used. Maybe we can also talk quickly about each one of them. So yet another mail which we have mentioned already.
Yeah.
Split names is
Mm-hmm.
actually nothing else but
Yeah.
a cell splitter,
Mm-hmm.
which is
I
funny
like
because
change case too. If you're importing a lot of data and they're all in caps and that drives me nuts, there's one called change case that fixes it.
sorry, say that again.
There's
Change
one
case.
called change case and it
Change
fixes your
case.
data to not be all caps.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that bothers me for some reason.
Okay. If you can again
Yeah.
confirm, I have here my view,
That's
which
it.
is
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
It's change case right there.
to the very, very left, we see Power Tools, which does also many, many different
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
things. And but with Power Tools, this is such an application where
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to what I mentioned before that they let you use their tools for some quota for free, and then they suddenly switch off.
Mm.
So what we see here now on my screen is, or on the stream, is that the authentication process any app needs to go through when you install it to your sheets. And now we can see also the
I like
new change case um, extension. So where was it? Power Tools here, yeah. So Power Tools does similar things, but it lets you do a certain amount of things, and then it wants you to pay. Rooster Think, I don't know why I've used it. Remove blank rows does what it says. Power Tools we just talked about. Um,
Hey guys,
form
I gotta get to work, but this is super fun.
Okay.
I'll try to catch in like next week.
Bonnie,
Yeah.
it was a true pleasure to have
Yes,
you.
yes, you guys are great. I'm gonna watch the rest of this though because this is super informative.
Okay. Hey, your tip about Data Studio. Thank you
Yeah.
again
Mm.
very
Look
much.
into
Yeah,
it. Look
thanks.
into
I
it.
will.
All
We
right.
will.
Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Be
Later.
safe. Be safe,
Bye,
Bonnie.
Bonnie. Thanks for joining us.
So please, James, as you know, when I'm sharing my screen, I don't see you. So please give me cues if I am too slow. I try to introduce my tool very quickly, and what we see here is Parks stand for PYP, automated report card system. So I just came up with a cool name. And
Mhm.
this would be the class roster with all the names. And then I have, as you see here at the bottom, I have many, many, many different sheets. And all sheets is usually one subject. Let's look at the language learning outcomes um, for English. And you would here put your learning outcomes in here, and the students would be here to the left, and teachers would have access to this sheet to give their grades in to this sheet. And then in the back end, which is usually sheet which is hidden, I have all the data. Sorry, that was for transposing. Where is it? All data here in this sheet. I would have a long list of learning outcomes with grades.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all subjects. This is not the view the teacher sees. So the teacher has a nicer view with only their subject. And you see here in the top row, there are these little tags around the learning outcomes calling R1. And then from this sheet, I would, this is actually a filled out sheet. And from this sheet, I would send it to whether a slide or a document to, and now I need to quickly stop sharing and see if I find the report card. I had it open. Here it is.
I mean, I think what I really like about that is that when you look at the back end, it's a lot more complicated. But by hiding those sheets, you've made it a lot easier for other people, haven't you?
Yes, you can hide sheets, but if they have access, they can get to it. That's a thing to know. So
Yeah, but if
you
you,
have to
it
you have
stops
to log.
confusing. It stops confusing people too much.
Yeah.
So if you look here, this is a report card,
Wow.
and
Wow,
if
that is
you
impressive.
if you know
Sure.
the
Impressive.
PYP system, it has only levels, not necessarily numbers. So as teachers, we aim here to have a 3. 3 is a good grade, and 4 and 5 might even implement that the student is needs more instruction to stay engaged. And here we see the actual grades, and you see that these 2 columns here are fed from the back end of the sheet, and this is several pages long, so 6 pages long, because in the PYP system there are so many learning outcomes. So I apologize if this was not
No.
too clear now, but
But I actually think the real benefit of these is just showing people the benefits. I mean, on a session like this, we're not going to be able to teach people step by step how to do
Yeah.
sheets.
Yeah.
no,
I
so
think, I think what we're showing is that even with just basic sheets, you're able to generate amazing reports with PDFs or Google Docs, and just using that Autocrat extension, which is the first extension we've come across that's genuinely free.
yes,
It's totally
it is free.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no limitations.
The other one I
No,
will mention that is also got no limitations, which I love, is Formule.
Yes.
yes,
Now,
Formula.
Andrew Stillman.
Yes,
yeah.
Andrew Stillman is a very very generous guy.
So Formule, because it serves a similar purpose. Am I right?
It
Yes.
does, but it's a bit simpler. It's a bit quicker, but it's a bit simpler.
Okay.
And I use the both because Autocrat I will use when I want to make certificates and things, but it's quite a lot slower. Whereas Formule, if I want to send an email,
It's
for
very
example, I
fast.
sent an email to all the Teach Meet people every day, but I want it to be a personal email, so I'll use Formule for that. But if I want to then send the certificates, I'll use the Autocrat. So
Autocrat.
after the event, but I know that takes 10 to 15 minutes to run through, whereas Formule can run 10 to 15 minutes and send 250 emails.
Okay, so Formule sends emails.
Yes.
Autocrat
Yes.
results in a document that can be sent in an email.
Yes.
No,
yes.
you can send emails with Autocrat as well.
Just straight up email.
But Autocrat does a lot more basically.
Okay.
And it even it will do docs, sheets, and now slides. So you can actually automate the creation of slides as well, which is
The
brilliant.
cards.
Using which one of
That's
those?
good for
Using
Autocrat.
Formule. Okay.
Autocrat does slides.
Oh,
And Formule just literally sends fairly basic emails out, but allows you to just fully personalize them and include images and HTML, so it's great.
So when
but it's a bit simpler.
Bonnie said that many schools are paying a lot of money, I believe that in our school now we use Get Alma, which is used to be called Alma Rubicon, I think, and we also use Atlas, but we use for the report cards we use Alma. And I wanted to ask you before what student information system you are using. I have experience with RenWeb, which is now called Facts, and in my personal humble opinion, I would not recommend Facts.
Well, how do you like Alma?
I am very happy with Alma.
Well, that's good.
Is making beautiful reports in our school. We can see what other teachers, what the comments of other teachers are.
Okay.
So, and there's a workflow integrated for proofreaders of your comments.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
So, and funnily enough, Alma and Atlas are from the same city. I don't know
really?
what's the state south of Seattle.
South Seattle.
Everything south of Seattle.
Yeah, yeah,
There's everything south of Seattle.
yeah.
But my principal told me that they come from the same city.
Just curious, because Alma is supposed to be compatible with Google products, right? Can you export?
It is.
Can you export data
syncs.
into Sheets? Just curious.
I'm not sure about that. What data would you like to export into Sheets?
I'm just curious because we're thinking about getting it, and so I just
So
like right
I can
now.
tell you
I have
what
trouble,
I know is
yeah.
that the Google Classroom sync to the gradebook in Alma works
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, nice.
I reckon that state's Oregon is my guess.
Okay, Oregon. Oregon sounds
Okay.
good. I think that was it. So, and what I wanted to mention was ManageBack. In many IB schools, ManageBack is the student information system and also the report card system. And I hear that it is very expensive. So, if it's just for the report card functionality, I think something like ManageBack is too expensive. I wanted to ask if anybody has experience with Firefly.
Yeah, I do from days of old. I think in Thailand that there's a certain value to it in fact that you can have your own server. Our current schools looked at it, but just for the price, it's a little steep. But a lot of people swear by it because it allows you to retain a lot of information. And as I say, you have the option of either having it hosted or having your own server, which in Thailand, if the internet goes down, you don't lose out. And it's pretty well integrated these days with Google Apps. So, yeah, I mean, I think Firefly is definitely one of the better platforms to put all your lesson resources and things onto. And as I say, you do have that advantage that you can have it hosted locally. But it's a big investment. And I would say it's for a larger school for the most part. And honestly, for smaller schools, I think actually Sheets and Sites is actually enough to do most things. Certainly up to a school 500 to 700. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of reminds me. So Atlas, you were talking about Atlas, Ralph. First, two things. One, it seems like Alma's got some curriculum functionality that might overlap with Atlas a touch.
It definitely does. We use Alma for gradebook grading and student information system, and Atlas for our planning.
Because I just I ran across something, and I don't remember where I bookmarked it, but it was a school that had come up with their own curriculum, like using G Suite products, had come up with an alternative to Atlas, and I think maybe one homemade extension that kind of tied it all together. Kind of curious about that kind of thing, because we're using Atlas right now, but we may or may not stick with it.
I don't know how much Atlas is.
What's that?
I don't know how much Atlas is, but
yeah,
it's
me
not
neither.
Student-based, is it?
Yeah.
So I think ManageBack might be student-based. Firefly, I don't know about that.
I mean, Firefly has got a big market share now because it does provide a lot of what people want. And the British schools are definitely, a lot of the international schools are using iSAMS and Firefly to manage their planning and their reporting. So it is popular. And as I say, the Firefly are relatively easy to get in touch with and give you a demo, and the habit is set you up with those things. The one thing that I will say is that they know they've got a good product. They will not give you a free trial or anything. But they will do a per student price to try and start things off for you. But those are major infrastructure investments. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Well, it's difficult to decide.
The other thing about Firefly, and I don't know if that's still the case, but it's not the easiest to find on the internet because of the way it works. Let me see. Oh yeah, I found it. I'll pop it into the chat so you can share it. But it's
Firefly Learning.
Yeah, Firefly Learning. But as I say, it is quite a powerful platform these days. But it's not something to go into lightly. That's a 2-3 year project. There is some overlap these days between that and Seesaw as well, but they don't do quite the same thing. But Seesaw does a lot of the blogging functionality of Firefly. So Seesaw is, again, something that has a lot of functionality, and certainly for primary school is enabling a lot of good parental communication. So, but
I
as
think
I
that
say,
is what school administrators are willing to pay. The first is for parents' information. Yeah, so I think all international schools here in Thailand have some system in place.
yeah, and as I say, I have been very impressed with Firefly. They do a lot of good things, but I just know you are buying a major database for your money. That's the way it works. And some schools are ready to do that, and other schools, it's a little bit too much. And as I say, for a lot of schools, small schools, Google Sites is actually just all you need, really, especially now you've got Classroom. And as I say, Classroom and Sheets is quite manageable for those smaller schools. And as you've seen from what Ralph can do, it's quite capable of making some quite clever reporting.
Yes.
Yeah, it did cost me literally a, a, a week of working, but I was very proud when it worked, and I saved a lot of teachers a lot of time, which was
Yeah.
it felt make me feel great.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sadly enough, the administration at that school did not really
yeah,
see the magic,
Oh,
or
wow.
yeah.
It's too bad.
oh yeah, well, I learned from it, and
Well, it looked great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I say the other thing is that the data studio that we've just learnt about, that is becoming quite powerful, and that does allow a good for management to quite data savvy. That does allow you to get a lot of the data out of all sorts of sheets and things, and pull data together from various data sources. So as I say, Google definitely does provide those little basics, but it's yeah.
Yeah.
I just learned about copy down like yesterday.
Oh right, yeah, it's a
Really?
good one, isn't
Yeah.
it? Very good.
Made by the
It's
same
so cool,
people as
right?
Autocrat. Yeah. Yeah. So I went
how
to,
do you use it?
well,
Oh,
when you've got a formula in row, your first
second row.
data row, right? So second row, and when a new row is added, like when another form is submitted, then it copies
Will
that
apply.
formula down to the row, the
Oh
next
my
row.
God!
Yeah,
I
it's a very
have
useful,
needed
handy
that so
thing.
Yeah.
often,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
it's really
gave
Ralph,
up.
handy.
I gave up on something because I didn't know about it.
Right, right.
Ralph.
And so then if you're using Autocrat, then you can start to use calculated rows in your
Yeah.
form instead of less processed data.
Well, that
Mm.
is,
Basically,
you know, it took me so long to figure out that
I
whenever a
use
form
the
is submitted, a new line is put into the sheet,
Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
that
I
was my
wondered why
question.
can't I? Oh my
Your formula
God!
wasn't. Yeah,
I
So
feel so
instead of
yeah.
silly.
using Flubaroo or the quiz for the
uh huh,
forms, I
yeah.
use the copy down, and then
Mm,
combine it with Autocrat so I can
mm,
return the result of my quiz or give any feedback
mm,
regarding any assessments. Because
Mm,
basically, it automates everything. If you combine
mm,
Autocrat, what we call this, copy down, and you're
mm.
good to go when you give feedback, when you
Yeah.
have assessments.
There is an
Anything.
alternative if you don't want to use any extensions. You can use import range, or you can use a
Hmm.
query.
mm,
Both of
Yes, you
those
can also.
can, and you need a combination of all three really, because
Yes.
sometimes you do need that data to be sourced
Yes.
and filtered fairly quickly. And query is really powerful for that. And I say one of the ways I got around some of the problems was just use import range, because then I could do all sorts of calculations quite quickly.
Sorry, James, you said it again. You are using three commands, which is import
Uh,
range.
Add-on.
the query command, which allows you access to all sorts of SQL commands,
Yes.
import range, which you can actually use inside and outside of a spreadsheet. I also use import range a lot so that
Yes.
teachers don't mess with the original spreadsheet.
Yes.
exactly.
Correct.
I'll give them read access. I won't give them that way. If they mess up their own spreadsheet, that's life, and I can, charge them extra.
Yeah. With my
Um,
example earlier, I also use query and import range because I
yeah.
have to preserve the original data and
Did I
then
spell that
manipulate
correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
import range.
Yes. Yeah. 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 So those
There's so
two
much.
are
There's so much
next level
with
functions and really
sheets.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah,
They,
initially when I thought we start this live chat, I think I wanted to show like simple split things, but
mm,
to completely give props to Gary, if I were to try that now live, I would surely mess up even the most simple stuff. So
There's a
yeah.
lot of things to learn with sheets,
Mm.
and I love it so much.
Yeah, I think it's time
Makes
to
my
wrap
life
up, isn't it?
easier.
We hit our hour, and I think we've
Yeah.
given a lot of inspiration. Set some very high standards, but
Mm.
uh, if you want to prove you're a top Google educator, get to that Google Level 2 exam, and
Mm.
then you'll be ready to join us for a nice bit of action between the sheets.
Yeah.
You were saving that. Saving that.
I was saving that. Yeah,
well,
nice line there.
my dear James, to summarize, we I like this a lot. Every day something. Every day we do this something very much new comes up, and we had a new visitor from America,
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
and I'm excited to try out what I have learned. And this
Mm.
copy
Copy
down,
down.
Mm.
unbelievable.
Yep.
So, James, thank you very much for helping,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody else for joining. Today is Thursday, and every Thursday we have a Thursday PD where we quench our thirst for knowledge.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
I hope we see you next week, and we are going offline now. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.